years. Grace has remained one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Incredible songs, iconic characters, and endless supportive moments. It's a film that brought audiences together across generations. We're thrilled to welcome legendary director Randall Kleiser for a live conversation. We'll share behind.
Celebrate one of, I think, objectively speaking, the greatest movie musicals ever made. And you guys absolutely delivered. Thank you all, those of you that were singing, those of you that were dancing. It was infectious, it was contagious. Thank you all. I think you can all agree that Grease is even more fun when it's shared with a room full of people who know every word. There are a few words where I was like, oh, I have been singing that wrong. Now, it's an incredible privilege to welcome the filmmaker who brought this beloved classic to the big screen. For more than 5 decades, he has crafted memorable films spanning musicals, adventure, family entertainment, and drama, while continually embracing new technologies and finding new ways to tell stories. Please join me in giving a warm SCAD welcome to the director of Grease, Randall Kleiser. Those of you that know me, which some of my students are out there, know that I'm a huge musical theater nerd. I grew up in a musical theater household. I've actually been in community theater productions of Grease twice as well. And so I grew up on this movie. This movie was incredibly pivotal to my film education. And, you know, as a young person, aspiring filmmaker, I didn't really understand what an incredible film that it was. I knew it was an entertaining film, but I didn't realize what an incredible film it was until I started to become a very serious filmmaker. And one of the reasons I think it is one of the greatest movie musicals ever made is because I think musicals are the hardest genre of movies, period. A lot of them are just not good. And one of the reasons for that is, unlike on stage, when we're much more forgiving of people opening their mouth and beginning to sing, on screen, that is a much harder needle to thread. One thing that really blows me away about this movie is the first proper song, Summer Lovin', happens approximately 16 minutes into the film. But leading up to that, you have this incredible sweeping overture. And then you have an essentially animated music video for the opening title sequence. And then you have the Rydell High theme. You've got the Pink Ladies doing the ba-ba-ba-ba thing. And you're priming the audience all that way so that when they start singing Summer Lovin', we're already entrenched in a musical sonic world. Can you talk a little bit about the deliberate choice in priming us for that?
Well, yeah, we rehearsed for 5 weeks before we shot the movie, and in the morning I would work with the actors for the dialogue part, and in the afternoon, our choreographer Pat Birch would work with them on the choreography. And so right in the middle, we would work on all those moments when the dialogue would go into music, and we had a live drummer and a live pianist. And we would work with them to get it right, because you're right. If they just start singing too soon, people go, what? And if it's too late, it doesn't work either. It has to be just the right intro to make it work. So we rehearsed the intros for all the songs.
It's expertly done. And you shared with me earlier this evening that you, of course, went to film school, but you also had another education that particularly helped with this film. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, to pay for my student films, I became an extra in movies, and I happened to work in a bunch of musicals, so I got to watch and see how they did them, how they do the playback and lip sync to it, and do it in sections, little phrases. And I was in Camelot and Hello Dolly and Thoroughly Modern Millie and 3 Elvis Presley movies. Wow. That was good training for this movie.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's any specific anecdotes. I mean, watching this again, and I think actually this embarrassingly might be the first time that I've seen it, at least in a theater this large. And getting to watch it in this theater with a room full of people singing, the joy just comes off the screen. But there's not a dull moment in this movie. It is so active and kinetic, yet it is restrained. There's long takes, and there's incredible ensemble staging, but there's just never a dull moment. It's filled, but it's not campy. And I'm curious if there was anything that you specifically took away from those experiences as an extra on those films that helped you with the perspective, that gave it that kineticism.
Well, yeah, I mean, like in Hello Dolly, there was a gigantic scene at the end, or I don't know where it was in the movie, but it was Barbara Streisand was singing When the Parade Passes By, and there were like 1,000 extras. I was way, way at the back, but I saw Gene Kelly directing it, and he had the camera going up in the air during it, and I was watching and saying, oh, I see what he's doing, you know, and trying to analyze when you move the camera up on a certain type of music, and so things like that were helpful. I remember on Summer Nights, Summer 11, there's a scene where Travolta goes up to walks up to the benches, and I wanted to do that crane move, and that turned out really well, just the way I hoped it. And then we had a really lucky accident at the end of Summer Nights when he's singing, just before he goes, oh, that moment, you know, where the sun came out just as he was about to sing that. If you watch it carefully next time, you'll see that he's there. It's like this, the sun comes out on his face while he's smiling. And it was just amazing that that happened at that moment. So, yeah, you get lucky accidents, and then you plan as much as you can. And some of the songs, like You're the One That I Want, I had never heard that song until the day we shot it, because it had not been written yet. So we showed up on the set for the carnival, and we had all the carnival rides there. And they arrived on the set, and they said, here's the song we're going to do, You're the One I Want. And we all listened to it and said, wow, that's a pretty good song. Now, what do we do with it? And then Pat Birch and I, the choreographer, looked around the carnival rides, and we saw the Shake Shack. We said, let's go and see if we can shoot it there. We walked through it, up and down and around, and we said, well, I guess it could come in and go up here and go out the back. And that's how it came about just that day. It was really it's just thrown together at the last second, and it's so amazing that it turned out okay. We did lose a light, and we had to go back to the studio because the carnival had moved on, so we had to reproduce part of it for the close-ups of John and Olivia there. But it was sort of thrown together in a way, and it's funny how it just fell into place.
Yeah, it's great that one of the most iconic scenes of maybe cinema history just turned out okay.
And by the way, the restaurant company Shake Shack got the name from that scene.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That we saw this Shake Shack over there, and we picked it just randomly, and now it's a big international restaurant. And I've never gotten a free hamburger.
Oh, wow.
Maybe write somebody about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so filming the carnival scene, seeing that come together, it's a crazy story. And you mentioned that obviously that song is not in the original musical, and there's a few differences between the musical and the film. I'm wondering if you could point out some of the big ones and maybe point to why those decisions were made in so much as you're able to.
Well, and You're the One That I Want, the original song in the play was called, you probably know.
It's shook up or something like
All
that.
Shook Up or
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, I watched that and I was trying to think, how do I make that into a really cool scene between Danny and Sandy, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I said, let's see if we can write another song for that. And John Farrar, who writes all of Olivia's songs, came up with that. He wrote Have You Ever Been Mellow and all that stuff, But anyhow, he hit a home run with this, and so it was great. And he also wrote Hopelessly Devoted to You, which was not in the play. And Sandy, the song that John sings at the drive-in, was not in the play. So we replaced the ones that we just thought weren't working, and now, interestingly, they've taken all those songs from our movie and put them back in the play.
And we were were speaking about this earlier. I think those songs specifically, Hopelessly Devoted and Sandy, are so important because Sandy as a character could be accused of being passive, and she's already as a character a bit prudish, and without that sort of grounding moment earlier in the film, I could see it be sort of easy for audiences to sort of unplug or maybe pull back. The Pink Ladies are so fun, right? And Sandy, you almost just want to be, a little less of a, so uptight.
Right.
But when you hear her, Olivia, she's just so incredible, right? And that song just grounds her in a very important way. So I think that that's one of the reasons why the film is so successful, is for as iconic as it is, as parodied as it is, and referenced as it is, some could accuse it of being campy, but not in actuality, in my opinion, because it has so much heart and sentimentality at the same time.
Well, that song that Olivia sings, in her contract she had a solo to do, and we didn't know where it would be in the movie, and we didn't have it written when we were shooting. So I kept saying, where's Olivia's solo? Where is it? We had to figure out what to do with it. And that came right at the very end when we had almost finished shooting, and we had a look, and we listened to the song, and it was a wonderful song, and I thought, where do we put it in the script? So we said, well, how about after the pajama party, right after that, and then where could it be? Oh, out in the backyard. So we told the Paramount people we wanted a backyard set, and poof, they built it like in one day, and then we shot it in one shot. And that was the last thing we shot. Another kind of thing that fell into place.
The cast, obviously, it's so easy for us to look back on now and think, oh, well, obviously, we cast these people. But in the moment, a lot of these folks were not who they ended up becoming. I'm curious, what was the casting process like? How involved were you in that? And this really is an ensemble film. This does not work if there's a weak link in the T-Birds or the Pink Ladies. And I'm curious, what was it like to build that ensemble?
Well, we wanted to use people who had done the play on stage in Broadway, and we used quite a few. I think Barry Pearl and Michael Tucci and Jamie Donnelly had all done the play, and so they knew where all the laughs were. They knew what the timing was, so they helped me a lot. Because when we're shooting, they knew exactly how to play it, exactly how to phrase it, and where to leave a moment for a laugh. And then we wanted to cast a lot of 50s icons, and I had grown up watching Our Miss Brooks, which was a TV show starring Eve Arden as a teacher. And I thought, let's upgrade her to the principal. And Sid Caesar was had his own show. He was a big star in the 50s. And the idea of having him, and we had Fatty Flag and Dodie Goodman, who was on the Gary Moore show. All these were TV shows that I grew up watching. So it was really fun to be on the set and have, especially Eve Arden there, working with her and Dodie Goodman, because those two just bounced off each other, and none of that was in the script. We just made that up sitting there, all the stuff between them, joking around. So when you have really good comedians like Sid Caesar and John just played that was all improvised too, nothing in the script. It was just the idea that he was teaching. That's what it said. He teaches them how to do sports. So everything was made up as
It's one of the few true montages. It's montagey. I wouldn't call it necessarily a proper montage, but because everything else has this sort of long take feel and is kind of built around songs a lot of the times. That sequence specifically is a little different than a lot of the other sequences. It's always so entertaining. Okay, so we're going to turn it over to questions in a moment, but before we do, I got two things. One, I got one more question. And I'm curious about the film's legacy as you see it. This is a film that has stood the test of time. Obviously, all of these folks have come out to see it on the big screen. It is endlessly referenced. It is in even people who haven't. I think Professor Bittencourt said it very well earlier today. Even people who haven't seen it have seen it because of how much it's referenced. But I'm curious, from your perspective, when you're subjected to watching the movie again, what stands out to you, and what, from a perspective of legacy, fills you with the most pride in terms of how the film has aged?
Well, when I go to these screenings, I've seen the movie a few times. So I watch the audience. I was watching all of you from over there sometimes during some. I was really happy to see you were joining in and singing and having a good time. But my most favorite, in terms of legacy, like you say, it was last August at the Hollywood Bowl. We had 17,000 people dressed in shirts like you guys. We're all dressed up as the characters, 17,000 people. And I had called John and asked him if he would come and make a special appearance. And he didn't want anyone to know about it, so no one knew except me and Dee Dee. And he came and put his wig on and wore the outfit. I said, we're gonna dedicate this performance to Olivia Newton-John. So let's hear it up for Olivia. And now we have a surprise. And I turned over, and John came walking out, and the audience went crazy. It was really like a Taylor Swift concert. That really felt like, how many directors get to stand on the stage with 17,000 people dressed in the costumes of your movie and scream and yell.
It's amazing. Congratulations.
Really fun.
All right, we have a raffle.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have 3 winners.
Oh.
And you will receive a signed copy of the director's notebook.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Which is available on Amazon.
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't win, you can still get the book. If